Hi, it's your coach, Joe Lucas, and welcome to this episode of the Magellan Network Show. And over the next several episodes, we're going to call this our summer practice scaling series. This will be episode number one. Is I want to unpack for you how I work with advisors and the strategies, tools, and frameworks that we use to double, triple, quadruple a business's top line in that 3 to 5 year period window. Okay. Be a little bit of my personal story again. In this episode, we're going to do some background, let's get into some of our initial frameworks and theses, if you will, and just keep watching every week for future episodes. So let's kind of unpack this. So, how this came about, and it has to be a little bit of my story. So as I'm recording this in June of 2026, basically I've been coaching advisors now for 32 and a half years. And I've bifurcated my career into book one, which was the first 25 years. And really, when I hit my 25th anniversary 7 years ago, I was at this real inflection point. And many of you understand this, where you're comfortable. You're making good money. Things are good. Why rock the boat? Do I really want to take it to the next level? Your ego says yes, but you really, for some reason, can't commit to a long term. You may do some fits and starts, but ultimately, it doesn't take. You lose momentum, and you're back into the just good enough / okay mode. And quite frankly, in probably the last 5 years of my first 25, so figure year 20 to 25, I was exactly living that, where I was making more money than I ever thought. Um, Not bad from a kid from Perth Amboy, New Jersey, who never went to college. And I literally felt pretty good about where I was. I wanted more, but I wasn't committed to getting more. And so when I remember the day, and it was in May, and it was in Huntington Beach, and I had this. I was very uncomfortable for a long period of time, wrestling with: am I accepting okay, good enough? Do I declare success? And for the next 25 years, so I always wanted to coach for 50 years. Like I said, you're 32 and a half. And am I going to be okay with this game? And I struggled with that because there's a part of me that says, hey, things are good. You're not, it's not like you're working 18 hours a day here. You've got a life. You're playing golf. You're doing things, right? But there was always something that gnawed at me. Like I never could find peace. And I do something, and I'll share one of the strategies. This is what I use with my clients. I call it the rocking chair test. And what the rocking chair test basically is I want you to imagine that you get the gift of being 100% you know it's your last day, and you get the opportunity to look back at your life. And I understand that not everybody does, and nobody really knows if you do when you pass on. But let's just say you get that opportunity. Would you regret not giving your all? And when I say that, I don't mean at the cost of your family, your relationships, your health. I don't mean that. I mean, would you sat there and say, I underachieved? My biggest fear in life, the thing that keeps me getting up in the morning and playing a game, is the absolute fear of underachievement. I want to leave everything on the field of business with no regrets. And that's been the way I've operated for the past 7 years. I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to tell you how I got there. Okay. So here are some of my frames. I came to the conclusion that I was not going to create a new chapter in my book, but I was actually going to close the book and create a brand new volume. So what I told myself was that the first 25 years of my career were practice, that it was like the first half. And I said, I'm a second half player. That's when it matters. And for the last 7 years, I've done that. to very high levels. So that's the first thing. All of this is predicated upon identity. Your current identity can't cash the checks that your ambition is writing. It's a phrase that I came up with. Your current identity cannot cash the check your ambition is writing. So you can be ambitious, you can have great goals, but if you don't shift your identity of who you are, you'll never accomplish it. I don't care how much time, energy, money you throw at something, it will not take long term. Why? Because the current version of you can't make it happen. Not at that level. So you must be willing to shift your identity. You must be willing to do that. And that I don't want to use the term secret sauce because I don't want to make it that, give it that hyperbole, if you will. But ultimately, there are 4 things that need to be present to accomplish a goal. Number 1, the goal. What is it? And it has to be specific with a timeline. Okay? Number 2, why is it a must for you? So part of this is, and I hear it all the time in my coaching work. Oh, Joe, I really like to double my business. I really hope I could X. And I listen. That's what a good coach does. And then what a great coach does is feeds it back directly with no room for misinterpretations. It will never look. Hope will not get it done. Try doesn't work. Right? It just doesn't. Not in this game. Too many distractions. So number 1, why is it a must? So number 1, what it is, specific timeline. Number 2, why is it a must? Okay. And if you can't come up with a single or a stack of compelling reasons why it's a must, it will not happen. It just won't. I don't care what it is. Why? Because you'll attack it while you're motivated. But once you lose that motivation, and we all do, by the way, don't believe these motivated people like they're motivated all day long. They're not. That's a bunch of BS. What gets it done is commitment. Are you committed to it? And the only way a human being can be committed to something is if it's an absolute must and they understand why it's a must. So if you're missing that why it's a must box, if that's not powerful for you, you'll play a little bit when you're motivated, but it's not going to happen. It's just not. Third box. Who do you need to become to make this happen? See, when I hit my 25th anniversary and I was on that beach by the pier at Huntington Beach, California, having my moment, as I call it, maybe an epiphany, I realized in that moment that I could not do what I needed to do being who I was. And I would say probably for the very first time in my adult life, I had this moment of absolute clarity. That everything, my standards, my approach, my belief set, my mindset, everything has to change. And what's the funny part about that is it changed. Like there, boom. But it took, I don't know, 5 years of pain, 10 years of suffering. I don't know. Like everything, like change can happen in a moment, but you got to get to that threshold moment, and that's the suck part. And then you've got to have the courage to step through it. That's what needs to happen. So who you need to become is a critical question. Now, some of you are going to sit there and say, well, Joe, I like him. I'm not going to change. I am who I am. That's a lie. Here's why I know that to be true. Wherever you're watching or listening to this, go back 5 years from today and ask yourself this question. Am I the same person I was 5 years ago? Same capabilities, confidence, experience, beliefs, everything. Am I the same person? We all know the answer is no. So obviously you've changed. What I'm submitting to you, most humans, all humans evolve throughout their life. 95% of them, it's a random process. Just whatever shows up, shows up. Whatever influence you, whatever it is. For the 5% that take the reins, grab the wheel of that shift, and be intentional about it, all things are possible. All things. It's in that moment of decision whether you're going to grab the wheel and you're going to steer your evolution so that it serves you and the greater good, or you're going to hope you run across the right person, have the right experience, get to have an epiphany, read something get some level of divine intervention if that's your jam, and hope it happens. Maybe will, maybe won't, or maybe we'll take it down the wrong, or not the pathway you want. So box number 3 is who you need to become, who you need to evolve into, and you're all capable of evolving. Fourth box, the one that everybody stresses over, is how am I going to get it done? So if you think about it in typical traditional kind of goal setting, if you will, or visioning, however you want to frame it, usually it's box number 1 and box number 4 we focus on. We're like, hey, what do you want? What do you need to do to get it? Right. So, hey, I want to double my business. Well, what do you need to do to get it? Well, I need to bring in this much money, these many new clients, stuff like that. Well, how are you going to do that? I'm going to do this, right? And you can frame that all out. And I've always said, look, just tell me what you want in your business. We can build a model in 5 minutes on a whiteboard. It's not that complicated, right? There's only so many ways to do this game, but that will never happen because you don't know why it's a must. You don't know who you need to become. In other words, the model or slash framework is incomplete, and an incomplete model cannot be deployed. An incomplete framework will not work. So we need to have that. Okay. So, so that's the first piece of the scale story, which is you have to be ready. This is not an intellectual, let me rephrase that. There are elements of intellectual need here, but ultimately this is an emotional conversation. And one or two things are going to get you to, and you're all going to have this inflection point. Maybe some of you are at this now. And what I've learned is, like my narrative is, hey, for the first 25 years, I was Coach Joe 1.0. And I would say from my 25th year to my 30th year, I was 2.0. Notice I went from 25 years to 5 years. And since then, I'm on 3.0. So I'm compressing my evolution because now I know how to do it. So I have to wait 25 years for the next one. I waited 5 years for the next one, and I waited 2 years for that. And I don't know, maybe it'll be an annual thing now. We'll see. But I'm able to compress time. So there's going to be an inflection point, and it's going to show up. It's going to show up one of two ways: either an absolute desire for more and greater, or an absolute, what I'll use the word, frustration that you're not having more, that you want to be more, that you want to have more. And by the way, when I say that's not negative. And I never pass judgment, right? So if you say, "Hey, man, I want to go make I want to have a take home income of $5 million." Okay, well, why is that a must for you? Because I want to have 3 houses, fly private, have a Lambo in the back in the garage or 2, and da da da. And that's what excites me. So good, man, we're gonna go for it. That excites you. All the people are like, "Well, I want to give away $1 million of charity every year." Okay, that excites you. Cool, right? Whatever it is, whatever your drivers are, they are. Right? This is very important. Whatever they are, they are. So if it's about a certain lifestyle or certain things, and that's going to get you out of bed when you don't want to get out of bed to go play the game, then we're good, right? If it's like, hey, that's not who I am. I'm more contribution. I want to give back. Great. Then figure out your charities or start a foundation or figure something. Whatever your driver is going to be, do that. But I'm telling you right now, the only way you're going to double, triple, quadruple your business and your income is if there's a compelling set of reasons to do so. And if it's all about you, I'm cool with it. If it's not about you, I'm fine with that too. But you better have a set of compelling reasons, because at the end of the day, you're motivated for a bit. And then when that goes away, it's all about the commitment game. Doing the stuff when you don't want to do it. Like I've been, this is what, episode 360, 355, whatever. I don't even know right now. I forgot, quite frankly. Do you think I love doing every one of these? No, I do not. But I do them because it's a commitment to do them every week, minus holidays. That's the game. So you got to get to that point, right? And I always say, necessity is the mother of all. So whether it's a necessity to get out of pain or a necessity to move towards something bigger and better, you're inspired or desperate, and that's fine. Whatever modality gets you to want to make a shift, fine with me. And probably it's a combination of both. Okay, so that's just some things I want you to think about. Is number one, and this is kind of, again, this is a series. This is sort of your assignment before we wrap this episode up. So here's your assignment. Number one, and I'm going to give you a 10-year. So I'm going to give you a frame. And this comes right out of our vision process. This is when we get together my clients and I, we get together once a year and we do a 2.5, 3-day strategic planning process. We call it our vision process, Magellan vision, basically. And, I'm going to give you the framework here. Just write it out. You don't need a piece of paper. You don't need a form. Okay. Just grab a piece of paper, an iPad, tablet, whatever. So I want you to think in terms of 10 years. And I know some of you are like, well, Joe, I'm like 72 years old. I said, good. Goal number one in 10-year vision is what? Be here and healthy. That's goal number one, right? The goal, agree with that. So first thing is, what is the goal? And I want you to have a 10-year frame. Okay. Not a 3-year, not a 5-year, 10. Now, for some of you, that's going to be hard because you don't think that far out. You have not exercised that muscle before. But what do you want in a decade? Right? And think big. Don't worry about how to because your brain's going to go to the box 4. Like, how am I going to do that? And you're going to see what it looks like. And you go, I can't do that. And you know why you can't do that? Because you're filtering it through who you are currently, not the skills that you're going to develop over the next decade, not the psychology that you're going to develop over the next 10 years. So set a 10-year goal. The goal, 10 years. That's box 1. Box 2, why is it a must? Now, if you can't come up with a must or a series of musts, then I would submit to you the goal's not good. You need to shift it or need to rethink it. And just for conversational piece here, you can put any goal in this framework, by the way. You can put health goal, personal goal, but we're just going to talk business here. So obviously what I'd want is a top line revenue number 10 years from now. And and again, I don't know where you are. We have all kinds of advisors listening to this, watching this. So I want it where you go, I want the number so big on the top line, it even freaks you out a little bit to write it down. Like, man, I don't know how I'm going to do that. Then that's a good number. In terminology, it's called the impossible goal. You want to have a goal that's impossible because it forces your brain to think differently. If you can reverse engineer your 10-year goal, I will tell you right now, it's not big enough. You need a goal that you go, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to do that. Okay. Like in my point, my 5-year goal is to have 10,000 advisors use my AI, Coach Joe AI. Okay. I set the goal 6 months ago, maybe 8 months ago. When I said I had no idea how to do it. It took me 6 months to figure out how to do it. And now I'm moving towards that, right? But for 6 months, it was like, well, how am I going to pull this off? I don't know. And that was the conversation I had every morning for like almost 6 months. I don't know. But you let your brain work it. So the goal needs to be big enough that it kind of freaks you out. When I came up with 10, like I didn't want to write it down, like 10,000, like, man, look, and somebody said to me, well, Joe, how do you pull that number? I said, it's a nice round number and I have no idea how to do it. That was my answer, period. Right? So you come up with the goal, 10-year, what it is, again, big, scary. Why is it a must? Third box, who you need to become. And the way I'd have you do this is the following. And this is how we do the exercise. I would take you in the exercise and say, I want you to think 10 years in the future and you've accomplished the 10-year goal. And I want you to visualize and think, and if you have to close your eyes, that's cool. What does your world look like in that vision? What does your business look like? What does your surroundings look like? Then who is the character that's you inside of that picture? What are your attributes, your habits, your standards, your strategies, your psychology? What does your average day look like? Who you're interacting with? How are you making a difference? Like you build that, right? And then that's who you need to become. right? And the sooner you can become that person, the faster this all happens, by the way. That's the secret. You want to hack? When you get very clear on who you need to become, and I mean like your standards, your floor, your psychology, your belief set, like everything, right? That framework. And that's the question of becoming that. And then a byproduct of that evolution, if you will be the transformation of your business. Because remember this term, every business is a reflection of the psychology of its leader. Every business is a reflection of the psychology of the leader. So if the leader is kind of fly by night, the business is going to be loose. If the leader is like super OCD and everything has to be perfect, then that's going to be a really stressful business, right? And you can't scale stress, right? You're not going to want to. So all businesses are a mirror of the founder or the leader's psychology. Never forget that. Okay. So that's box number 3. Box number 4, take some time on it, reverse engineer it. So, for example, I worked with somebody recently, and it's a $2 million team, and they said in 10 years we want to be a $10 million team. We want to have $1 billion. First of all, I think we get that done in 5 to 7, but we'll take the 10-year frame. And so we did all the exercise, and I said, okay, box number 4, what does it look like? And they think, well, we're going to need X amount of households based on our averages, and that we kind of, $1 billion, we can reverse engineer that out, right? It's going to be several hundred households basically. And I said, so what does a team need to look like, right? How many advisors are we going to need? How much support staff are we going to need, right? And again, in a hypothetical, not like we're not doing blood oath here, but we need to do the exercise, right? And then how are we going to acquire that? And then we say, well, is this going to be all organic, or are we going to go in acquisition mode, right? Like how are we going? Because if you go in acquisition mode, we can definitely compress time. I can spool if I've got capital to invest. I can spool up $1 billion in a couple of years. I just got to go figure out the deals, right? And it's competitive, and I get that, but it can be done. It's always possible, right? So these are just some things I want you to work on. This is kind of your homework between our sessions here. And then next week's episode, I'm going to share with you the foundations and frameworks. So we're going to get into now the foundational pieces and then the framework, but I want it in this episode to set the stage. Okay. So I hope you come with me on this journey over the next several weeks here this summer. And with my goal of you getting some real value. And we don't need to just do goal setting in December or January. We can do this throughout the year. So this is going to be our summer project between you and I. All right. With that said, thank you for listening and watching this episode of Magellan Network Show. If you found this valuable, a couple things that really help us out: leave a review on whatever platform you're watching or listening to this. Send this episode to a colleague in the game, right? So they can learn too. And if you want more information about what I do, there's 2 places on the internet you can find me: coachjoe.guru, GURU, and Magellan Network, one word, MagellanNetwork.net. Have a great week, and I'll see you all again in 7 days.